You really thought they were yours? That's what she said, right in my face. Lip curled, voice dripping with venom. Like I was garbage beneath her heels. We were standing in the backyard, music blasting, people laughing, her big day in full swing. Balloons everywhere. Influencers snapping selfies by the custom photo wall. And I was just the supportive husband holding a champagne glass, until I dropped it. I had just hit her with a quiet question, whispered into her ear. Emily, tell me the truth. Are the kids mine? She pulled back, narrowed her eyes, and then laughed, loud enough for people nearby to glance over. Then she leaned in and whispered back. Saul always said you were the perfect fool. You've raised his kids for 22 years. And now, I'm done pretending. Boom. That was the moment everything shattered. And you know what the worst part was? She looked relieved, like she'd been waiting to drop that truth on me, waiting to humiliate me. The woman I gave everything to, 5 kids, a home, my youth, just smiled and said, You'll always be a backup plan, Daniel. I needed stability. You were safe. But Saul? He was real. My hands were shaking. I could barely breathe. But I didn't yell. I didn't punch a wall. I smiled. Because she had no idea what was coming next. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I let her words sit in the air like poison, thick and burning. The laughter around us kept going. People clinking glasses, taking selfies with Emily's name printed in gold on the flower wall behind us. But in my head, everything had gone silent. All I could hear was the echo of her voice. Saul always said you were the perfect fool. She said it like she meant it, like she enjoyed it. I looked at her. This woman I built a life with. 22 years. 5 birthdays a year. 5 school pickups. 5 little faces that used to light up when I walked through the door. All of it fake? She took a slow sip from her champagne, eyes never leaving mine. It was like she wanted to see how far she could push before I snapped. You really had no idea, she added, quieter this time, almost pitying. Jacob has Saul's chin. Lily's nose is a copy-paste of his mother's. You were too busy being proud to ever question it. I wanted to scream. Tear everything down. Ask why, how, when. But I didn't. I forced myself to swallow every piece of rage climbing my throat. Because this wasn't the moment to lose it. This was just the spark. The fire was still coming. I leaned closer, close enough for her perfume to choke me. Don't move, I said quietly. I've been planning this for 3 months. Don't ruin it now. Her smile faltered just a bit. She blinked. Once. Twice. That's when she knew. She hadn't been dealing with the same man she married. I walked away, past the food truck, past her influencer friends holding cameras and fake laughs. I stepped onto the patio and took the mic. Emily turned slowly, her smile snapping back into place like a mask. She thought I was about to toast her, praise her, like the puppet husband I'd always been. Can I get your attention? I said into the mic. The crowd simmered down. Some turned with interest. Some kept their phones out, still recording, expecting some heartfelt husband speech. Maybe a viral TikTok moment. What they got instead was the beginning of her end. First of all, I began. Thank you all for coming to celebrate the most delusional person I've ever known. A few nervous laughs. Emily froze. I didn't stop. I've known for a while now. About Saul. About the lies. About the 5 kids that were never mine. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Her sister choked on her drink. One of her friends stepped back like she didn't want to be too close when the bomb dropped. I was supposed to be the provider. The loyal one. The safe choice. That's what she called me in her texts to her real man. I pulled the burner phone from my pocket and tapped the mic with it. She sent him pictures. While I was at work. While I was at soccer games. While I was, my voice cracked, teaching his son how to ride a bike. Emily finally moved, stepping toward me, arm outstretched. Daniel, don't do this. We can talk. No, I cut her off. You had 22 years to talk. Now it's my turn. I looked around the backyard. All eyes were on me. I held up a manila folder. Paternity tests. 1 for each child. You'll find they share one common father. And it's not me. Her mother covered her mouth. Her best friend turned and walked straight out the gate. I finished it with one line. Emily, this is your big day. So enjoy it. You've just gone viral. The whole world's about to meet the woman who conned a man into raising another man's kids for 2 decades. Then I dropped the mic literally and walked out of that backyard like I had just crawled out of hell. Because I had. And I wasn't coming back. I didn't go home that night. I couldn't. I drove until the gas light came on, then parked under a dead street lamp near an abandoned strip mall. My hands were still shaking, and the buzzing in my ears wouldn't stop. The night was cold, but I didn't care. My whole body felt numb, like my blood had turned to ice the moment she laughed in my face. She laughed. That's what haunted me the most. Not just the betrayal, not just the years of lies, but the fact that she seemed to enjoy it, that she took pleasure in humiliating me, like it gave her power. I stared at the roof of the car and tried to remember when it started, when the shift happened, when the woman I married turned into that. Maybe it was 10 years ago, when Saul showed up at her high school reunion, and suddenly she started working out more, staying out later. Maybe it was earlier, when she had our third kid and stopped letting me touch her, but still had that glow every other night. I don't know. I was blind. Or maybe just stupid. Perfect fool, right? I thought back to the way she'd look at me during family dinners. Always just a little too polite, too distant. The way she never really held my hand in public anymore. I thought it was just marriage fatigue. I thought we were fine. But now I see it was always fake. A performance. Every smile. Every I love you. Every you're a great dad. Lies. I remember one time, about 3 years ago, when our son Noah came home crying because he got into a fight at school. I sat with him on the porch for an hour, talking him through it. He hugged me and said, "You're the best dad in the world." And I believed it. I felt it. But now, that memory burns. Because while I was building him up, Emily was probably sending Saul another photo under the bedsheets, calling me the babysitter, the ATM, the joke. I wanted to hate the kids. I really did. But I couldn't. They didn't ask for this. They didn't know. They loved me. And deep down, I still love them. That's the part Emily could never kill. Not even with the truth. But her? I was done. That night, sitting in my car, I started making a list. Not of revenge. Not anymore. That part was already in motion. I had already burned the illusion down in front of everyone who mattered to her. Her influencer career? Toast. Her friends? Scattered. Her image? Shattered. No, the list I made was about freedom. What I wanted now. What I needed to rebuild. Because she took 22 years from me. I wasn't giving her another second. Item 1, lawyer. A brutal one. Item 2, DNA results formally filed. Full custody battle on principle. Even if the court ruled they weren't biologically mine, I'd force her to explain it publicly. Make her squirm. Item 3, write letters to each of the kids. Not to turn them against her, but to explain who I am, who I was, and that no matter what blood says, I was always there. I always showed up. I ended the night at a motel. Cheap. Quiet. No questions. I lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling until the sun started bleeding through the curtains. And then, as if on cue, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. "Daniel," a deep voice said. "This is Saul." I froze. "You got your moment," he said calmly. "Now you need to stop. Don't ruin their lives just because you feel hurt." He wasn't threatening me. Not yet. But he was warning me. And that made me smile. Because he had no idea what I still had left to unleash. I hung up without saying a word. Then I called my lawyer. Emily thought the show was over. But I was just getting started. The lawyer's office was cold. Not the temperature, just the energy. The kind of sterile, polished place where people came to dismantle lives with pen strokes instead of weapons. I slid the folder across the glass table. Birth certificates, photos, printed texts, audio files, a copy of the paternity results. I didn't flinch as he opened it. Didn't look away when he saw the name Saul Reynolds appear 5 times under biological father. He whistled low. "Jesus, Daniel." All 5. I nodded once. Every single one. He leaned back in his chair, tapping a pen against his teeth. "Well, you've got a few ways to play this. Depends if you want to go nuclear." I stared him straight in the eye. I already did. Now I want full control. He laid out options. Divorce proceedings. Custody claims. Even though I wasn't the bio dad, I had 22 years of consistent parenting, so I could fight for visitation, possibly shared custody. More importantly, we could sue for emotional distress, fraud, asset division with proof of infidelity. I didn't want her money. I wanted her cornered. Completely. No way out. By the time I left that office, papers were being drafted. My name would no longer be tied to hers in any legal sense within 60 days. But that wasn't fast enough. So I started phase 2. I went home. The house was quiet when I walked in. Too quiet. She was probably hiding upstairs, pretending this would all blow over. That I'd apologize for embarrassing her. that we'd talk. I walked into the kitchen, where her phone was charging. Still unlocked. Still connected to the cloud. I pulled everything: messages, call logs, photos, cloud backups. I sent them to myself. I wasn't going to use them to go public. No, I already did that. This wasn't about going louder. This was about going deeper. She came downstairs a few minutes later, robe tied tight, like some grieving widow. Hair messy. No makeup. Her real face, the one I hadn't seen in years. Daniel, she started, voice soft. I didn't mean for you to find out like that. I laughed. I couldn't help it. You didn't mean for me to hear you say I was a fool? Didn't mean to tell your friend that I raised Saul's kids like some kind of charity case? Her lip twitched. That was private. No, Emily. Our wedding vows were private. That was just filth. She took a step forward. I never wanted to hurt you. Then why did you do it for 2 decades? She didn't answer. Just lowered her head, like she was searching for sympathy in the cracks of the tile. I leaned on the counter. Tell me, just once, was there ever a moment, any moment, where you looked at me and thought, I'm lucky to have him? Silence. That was my answer. I grabbed my things, walked past her, and as I opened the door, she called after me. They're going to hate you when they find out. The kids. You know that, right? I turned slowly. They'll know who lied. And who stayed. Then I left. That night, I sent each of them an email. Honest. Raw. No blame on them. Just facts. I told them I loved them. That I raised them the best I knew how. That no matter what they chose to believe after this, I was always the one who showed up. Always. The responses didn't come right away. But one did. From Jacob, the oldest. 2 lines. I don't care what the DNA says. You're my dad. I'm coming to see you. I stared at the screen until my eyes blurred. Emily didn't break me. She just showed me who I really was. And who she never deserved. Jacob showed up the next morning. No warning. No call. Just a knock on the motel door while I was halfway through a coffee that tasted like burnt plastic and shame. I opened it, and there he was, hood up, backpack slung over one shoulder, eyes red but not from crying. He looked like he hadn't slept, like every wall in his world had been torn down overnight. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there. Then, quietly, is it true? I stepped aside and let him in. He dropped his bag near the table, sat on the edge of the bed, hands clasped like he was afraid to hear the answer. I sat across from him, suddenly unsure of everything I thought I knew about fatherhood. I got the results, I said. They're real. He didn't react, just nodded slowly. Did she admit it? He asked. She didn't need to, I said. I heard her say it. To a friend. Laughing. Jacob's jaw tightened. I saw him bite the inside of his cheek the way he always did when he was pissed. He used to do it as a kid when we'd tell him to go to bed early. Now he did it when his entire life fell apart. I'm sorry, I said. For what? He snapped. You didn't lie. You didn't cheat. You didn't pretend. He stood up, paced the room like the carpet was on fire. I thought Saul was just some random guy. Mom always called him a family friend. Said he helped with her career stuff sometimes. He stopped. I never even liked him. He was always so fake. Gave me this weird look whenever I'd call you dad. I swallowed hard. He's your biological father. He turned. But you're my real one. It hit me in the chest like a freight train. He sat again, calmer now. The others don't know yet. Mom's trying to explain it gently, which means she's probably spinning some story where you're the villain and Saul's a romantic hero. I shook my head. Doesn't matter. The truth's out. You saw it. He nodded. So what now? I fight, I said. Not to destroy her. Not even for revenge anymore. But to stay in your lives. To not vanish like she clearly wanted me to. He smiled, just a little. Good. Because I don't care what those papers say. You taught me how to ride a bike. You came to every game. You sat in the car with me the night I totaled Mom's car and didn't tell her for a week. You're my dad. I didn't cry. I wanted to, but I didn't. Later that day, my lawyer called. Said Emily had already filed first. She beat me to it. Claimed emotional abuse, gaslighting, and public humiliation. She was trying to flip the whole story around like I was the one who had done her wrong. Of course she was. That was her pattern. Lie, deflect, destroy. She knew I had the documents, the recordings, the proof. But she also knew public sympathy was a weapon, and she was good at playing the victim. The pretty, cheated-on wife of a cold, bitter husband who lost his mind and embarrassed her in front of friends. I told my lawyer to hit back. Hard. He filed a countersuit the same day. Fraud. Paternity deception. Emotional cruelty. We added the full packet of evidence and submitted an emergency request for a judge to review the DNA results and freeze shared assets. I was going for the throat now, and just when I thought the week couldn't get darker, Saul called again. This time I answered. "You need to stop dragging her name through the mud," he said. "Say that again," I replied. Slower. "You've done enough damage, Daniel." I laughed. "You got your 5 kids. You got your mistress. Now you want to play knight in shining armor." He didn't answer. I continued, "Don't worry. I'm not dragging her name. I'm just showing people what she really is. She's the mother of your kids." "No," I corrected. "She's the woman who used me to raise yours." He started to speak again, but I hung up. I wasn't interested in his voice anymore. I had plans to make, court dates to prepare for, and letters to send to my other 4 kids before she poisoned their minds. Emily thought the worst was over. She had no idea what was still coming. 2 days later, my daughter Emma called me. She was crying before she even said hi. I stepped out of the lawyer's office and leaned against the brick wall, heart racing like I'd just stepped into a burning building. I had rehearsed a dozen different ways this conversation might happen. None of them prepared me for the actual sound of her pain. "Dad," she sobbed, "is it true?" I didn't know how to answer. I didn't want to say yes and break her. I didn't want to lie and protect Emily. "Emma," I said carefully, "I love you. That hasn't changed. But yes, the test says I'm not your biological father." Silence. Long, heavy. Then a whisper. "Mom said you made it all up. That you're trying to hurt her. That you hacked something." I almost laughed. That was so Emily. Even caught red-handed, she still painted herself as the victim and me as some villain with a keyboard. "I didn't hack anything," I said gently. "I took a real test. I sent it to a real lab. And I didn't do it because I wanted to hurt anyone. I did it because I heard her say it herself, Emma. On the phone. She said I wasn't the father. She laughed about it." Emma's breathing was shaky. "Is that why you left?" "I didn't leave you," I said quickly. "I left the lie. I left the woman who made me live it. But not you. Not Jacob. Not your brothers. Not Lily." She sniffled again, quieter. "Are you coming to Lily's recital?" That nearly broke me. "Of course I am," I said. "I'll be there in the front row, like always. Nothing changes that." She didn't say much after that, just whispered, "Okay," and hung up. But it was enough. One by one, they were starting to see. The cracks Emily swore I'd never make were spreading through her pretty little mask. Later that night, I got an email. From an anonymous address. But I knew who it was. A single video file. No subject. No message. I hesitated for a moment before opening it. It was Emily. In our bedroom. Sitting on the edge of the bed. Wearing something she used to wear for me. And Saul, shirtless, behind the camera. My heart didn't drop this time. It didn't even speed up. I watched the first 10 seconds, long enough to hear her giggle and say, "He's probably tucking the kids in right now," before I paused it. Deleted it. And forwarded it straight to my lawyer. She was trying to shake me. She thought that would push me over the edge. That I'd explode, break down, call her, scream at her. But I was done with all of that. The next day, my attorney filed for emergency protection of personal property, citing emotional manipulation. We submitted the video, not for court evidence, but to show the pattern. Emily was spiraling. Her perfect image was falling apart. Then, just when I thought she'd gone as low as she could go, she showed up at my motel, knocking like she had every right to be there, wearing a coat over a tight black dress, like she was walking straight out of a music video instead of a broken marriage. I opened the door halfway. She smiled like nothing had ever happened. "Can we talk?" I didn't say anything. She stepped forward, brushing past me, letting herself in. Like the room was hers too. "You made your point," she said casually, sitting on the edge of the bed. "You embarrassed me, hurt me, ruined everything. Happy." I shut the door behind me. "I didn't ruin anything, Emily. You did that." I just held up the mirror. She crossed her legs. "The kids are confused. Upset. They think you're the one tearing the family apart. Because that's what you told them," I snapped. She didn't deny it. "I can fix this," she said, standing slowly. "We can fix this. You and me. Drop the case. Come home. We'll tell people it was just a rough patch. People forget. They always forget." I stared at her like she'd grown horns. "You think I'd take you back? After what you did?" She stepped closer, put a hand on my chest. "You're still wearing the ring." I looked down at her hand, pulled the ring off without a word, dropped it on the table. "I was holding on to something that didn't exist," I said. But I'm not that man anymore. She backed away, finally starting to realize the door was closing, for good. She picked up the ring, stared at it, then turned to leave. At the door, she looked back. Her face changed. No more smiles. Just pure venom. You'll regret this, she said. I didn't flinch. Already did. For 22 years. And then she was gone. For the first time in weeks, I finally slept without nightmares. I didn't see Emily again after that night. Not in person, anyway. She tried. Oh, she tried. A few more texts. A couple of voicemails that swung between fake sorrow and veiled threats. Her usual game. Emotional ping-pong until someone folds. But I didn't fold this time. I was done playing. The court date came and went. My lawyer annihilated her claims. Her accusations of abuse fell flat under the weight of my evidence. Screenshots, voice recordings, even old photos where Saul was far too familiar in the background of our family memories. The judge didn't care for her crocodile tears. Didn't even blink when she tried to flip it and say I'd manipulated the kids. In the end, she walked away with what was hers. Nothing. The house went into my name. Her business fell apart under the pressure of sponsors pulling out. Turns out no one wants to work with someone who becomes a trending topic for being a pathological liar. Especially not after the clip of me calling her out at the party went viral. Millions of views. Thousands of comments. Most of them asking how I didn't see it sooner. Others, men mostly, thanking me for saying what they never could. For walking through the fire and dragging the truth out the other side. Jacob moved in with me full-time. Emma started spending weekends at my new apartment. Even Noah, the quiet one, texted me once with a simple line. You didn't leave us. She left you a long time ago. That one wrecked me. I still saw Lily from time to time. She didn't understand everything, but she knew enough. She called me Dad and ran into my arms every time she saw me. And I held her like I was holding onto the last piece of myself that Emily hadn't ruined. Saul disappeared, probably ashamed. Or maybe just smart enough to realize he'd never be accepted by the family he secretly fathered. The kids wanted nothing to do with him. Not after everything. A few months later, I stood in the same backyard where I had once dropped that microphone. The flower wall was gone. The fake smiles, the filtered friends, gone. It was just me and the kids. A small grill, some cheap burgers, a cooler full of soda. Jacob laughed so hard at one of Noah's jokes that he dropped his plate. Emma was showing Lily how to blow bubbles with chewing gum. I was flipping burgers, wearing an apron that said, Real Dad. DNA optional. They got it for me. As a joke. I smiled more in that hour than I had in the last 10 years of marriage. Later that night, after the kids had gone inside, I sat alone under the porch light and thought about everything. The lies. The betrayal. The years I'd never get back. And then I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I was free. Emily had destroyed the life I thought I had. But in doing so, she gave me the one I deserved. One built on truth, not illusion. One where I could finally breathe. People always say betrayal changes you. They're right. It made me smarter, sharper, harder where I needed to be. But somehow, it also made me softer with the right people. More protective, more present, more real. If someone's reading this, some guy sitting in his car outside a motel with his life falling apart, here's what I'll tell you. Don't let the lies break you. Let them wake you. Don't chase the version of her you fell in love with. That woman's gone. Or maybe she never existed at all. Let the truth hurt. Then let it build you into something stronger. Because one day, you'll be flipping burgers in your backyard with the people who truly love you. And you'll realize, the worst day of your life was actually the beginning of your best one.